Welcome to my channel Soft Feminine. I never thought a simple bet could change everything. It started in my buddy's living room. Music was playing, drinks in hand, laughter bouncing off the walls. And then, between jokes and dares, someone, probably drunk, pointed at the pile of clothes in the corner. "Bet you won't wear that dress," he said, tossing it toward me. I froze. A dress. On me. Everyone was watching, waiting for the laugh, the rejection. "Come on, it's just for fun," someone added. I laughed nervously. Yeah, sure," I said, not realizing how much my heart had already sped up. The first moment I held it in my hands, it felt strange. Silky, soft, completely alien against my palms. I laughed again, half nervous, half incredulous. "This is ridiculous. Just a joke. Just a stupid bet." But then, I tried it on. And the mirror didn't lie. I looked different. Not just the obvious. The colors hugging curves I didn't realize I had, the neckline framing my chest in ways that made my heart skip. But something deeper. My posture changed instinctively. My shoulders softened. My face in the mirror wasn't mocking me. It was curious, alive. "What the hell?" I whispered, gripping the sink. I spun, laughed nervously, and froze again. My reflection moved with me, but it wasn't me, at least not the me I knew. The me staring back was softer, almost delicate, yet confident in a way I couldn't name. My friends cheered from behind the door, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. I tried to laugh it off. Okay. You win your bet," I said, my voice shaking slightly. But deep down I knew something had shifted. Something wasn't going back to normal anymore. And I wasn't ready to admit exactly what that something was. The morning after the bet, everything felt wrong. I got up, half expecting it to be a dream. My apartment smelled the same. The sunlight spilled across the floor like always. But when I looked in the mirror, I hesitated. My reflection carried a trace of that night. The way the dress had hugged my body, the softness in my features I hadn't noticed before. It was just a bet, I told myself. Just one joke. Nothing more. I dressed in my usual clothes, but even my jeans felt tight, my t-shirt loose in all the wrong ways. Every movement made me hyper-aware of how I occupied space. Every glance in reflective surfaces, a window, a spoon, a polished desk, made my stomach twist. At work it was worse. "Hey, you okay?" Mark, my coworker, asked, squinting at me across the office. "Yeah," I muttered, trying to sound normal. But my voice cracked slightly. He tilted his head. "You look different." Different. The word echoed in my mind all day. I felt exposed, like someone had turned a spotlight on me without asking. My hands trembled on the keyboard. My posture, my gestures, even the way I walked to the printer. Everything felt amplified. Lunch was no better. I ducked into the bathroom, sat on the closed toilet lid, and stared at my hands. They looked the same, yet I felt foreign in them. My reflection mocked me. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe it just waited, patient, watching, judging. At home, the tension didn't fade. My wife noticed the nervous energy. "You don't have to do it again," she said softly that evening, voice gentle. I wanted to nod. I wanted to promise her I'd stop, go back to normal. But a whisper inside me said otherwise. "Maybe, just once more," I said under my breath, almost ashamed to hear my own words. And in that quiet confession I felt a thrill, and a fear, that I couldn't shake. The bet wasn't over. And neither was its effect on me. The apartment was silent. The hum of the refrigerator, the soft creak of the floorboards. It all sounded louder than usual. I waited until I was sure no one could hear me, no interruptions, no distractions. The bedroom felt like a different world. The lights dimmed, the mirror waiting. I stood there, heart racing, hands trembling slightly. "This is ridiculous," I whispered. "Just a joke, just a bet." But I couldn't stop. I opened the closet, past my usual clothes, to the pile of outfits my friends had dared me to try. Soft fabrics, bright colors, silky textures, items I never imagined wearing now lying before me. My fingers brushed against them, and the touch sent shivers up my spine. This'll, don't go further. But the first dress slipped over my skin and the world shifted. The fabric hugged curves I hadn't noticed, draped in ways that felt natural, comfortable even. I froze, staring into the mirror. The reflection wasn't a stranger. It was me. Somehow, a version I had never let surface. Hesitant, delicate, yet undeniably alive. I laughed softly, nervously. What am I doing? The mirror didn't answer. It just waited, curious, patient. Then came the makeup. I picked up a small kit, my hands shaking. Powder, lipstick, mascara. All tools I had never used seriously. The scent of them made my chest tighten. It's slow, I whispered. Each stroke transformed me, but not into someone else. Just more me. More real. More honest. I tilted my head, adjusting the brush, blending carefully. My lips, my eyes, my cheeks. They shifted, highlighting features I had never allowed myself to see. I stepped back, studying the reflection. My heart skipped. Not with shame, not with mockery, but with something, recognition. A small voice whispered, "You look right." I tilted my head again, testing my voice in the quiet room. Soft, uncertain at first, then gradually more fluid. Each word I whispered made me shiver, not with embarrassment but with awareness. Somewhere deep inside I realized, I wasn't pretending anymore. I was discovering. And discovery is dangerous when it feels this real. The first time I left the apartment fully dressed like this, I told myself it was just a quick walk. Early evening, soft light, fewer people. But as I stood at the door, my heart was hammering. Every instinct screamed, "Stop. Turn back. You don't have to do this," my wife whispered, hand warm in mine. "I want to," I said, surprising myself. The night air brushed against my skin, electric and alive. Every step felt amplified, every glance from passers-by magnified. I was acutely aware of the sway of my hips, the subtle curve of my shoulders, the way my chest rose and fell. Reflections in store windows made me pause. Half expecting panic, I found only curiosity. Recognition. At a cafe, I hesitated at the counter. "Hi, a coffee please." The barista smiled. "Name." I almost said my usual name but stopped. Instead, I used the softer, practiced name I had been testing in private. "Lila," I said. Hearing it spoken back confidently sent a shiver down my spine. Felt right. Natural. Alive. Over the next few weekends, I experimented more intentionally. Walks in the park, trips to the bookstore, a quiet dinner at a small restaurant. Fear was still there. Of course it was. But it no longer controlled me. Small victories accumulated. A stranger's compliment, a barista remembering my order, a smile from someone passing by. Each victory was fuel. Each step forward made me stronger. Inside, I began noticing a shift. My posture relaxed. My reflection no longer startled me. I moved naturally, smiled freely, and laughed without thinking about judgment. One evening, my wife watched quietly as I rehearsed in front of the bedroom mirror. "You look right," she said softly, eyes full of awe. I smiled, feeling the truth of it. "I think I am," I said. It wasn't just about the dress or the makeup or the name I chose. It was about showing up, fully, honestly, unapologetically. And for the first time I felt like I belonged, not just in the reflection but in the world. It happened on an ordinary Wednesday. I was walking home from work, dressed carefully, feeling the small but growing confidence I had nurtured over the past weeks. The streets were busy but not crowded. The wind brushed my hair gently, and for a moment I allowed myself to feel normal. Then I felt it. Eyes. Not casual, not friendly, curious. Observing. Judgment hovering just beyond the surface. A familiar voice followed me. "Is that you?" I froze. The words were hesitant, but the recognition in them hit me like a jolt. I turned. One of my coworkers, someone who knew me in my old life, was standing there. Her expression was a mixture of surprise, confusion, and concern. I swallowed hard. "Yes." My voice was steady even though my heart was racing. She hesitated. I didn't expect this." "I didn't expect it either," I admitted. Silence stretched. The world seemed to shrink around us. Then came the question I'd been dreading. Why? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of weeks, months, and all the moments of quiet self-discovery pressing on me. "It started as something I did for a bet, for fun," I said slowly. "But it became something for me too. Something I can't ignore anymore." Her eyes softened, but she still looked uncertain. "People will talk. Things might change. Are you ready for that?" I felt the tension coil inside me. The pull of my old life, the safety, the predictability, the masks I wore without thinking, was strong. But the reflection I had come to know, the one that had made me feel alive, was stronger. I straightened my shoulders. I said. It was a choice. Not just about public perception. Not just about her reaction. About me. And in that moment I realized I couldn't go back, not fully. The rest of the world could react however it chose. I had already crossed the line. I had already accepted what I had discovered about myself. My coworker nodded slowly, as if processing not just my words but my certainty. "Thank you," she said. "I support you." It wasn't a grand declaration, but it was enough. And just like that, the fear that had gripped me for weeks began to dissolve, replaced by a quiet, fierce clarity. I was done hiding. I was done pretending. I was ready to exist as the person I had been discovering all along. The days after that confrontation were quiet but not empty. I didn't make a dramatic announcement. I didn't stage a reveal. I simply showed up as myself, fully, honestly, unapologetically. The first morning I left the apartment without hesitation, dressed the way I had always feared to. I paused at the door. I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror. My posture was confident, my expression calm. Not because the world had changed, but because I had. At work, reactions varied. Some people avoided my eyes, unsure how to respond. Some asked awkward questions, fumbling for words. A few smiled with quiet acceptance. One colleague approached me gently. "I just wanted to say, you seem happier." I blinked, surprised. "I am." Her words stayed with me the entire day. Outside of work, my world shifted in subtler ways. I discovered spaces where I could exist without explanation. Where my name, my chosen self, was spoken naturally. Where small compliments and friendly smiles weren't shocking. They were ordinary. At home, my wife's presence was grounding. She never pressured me, never questioned my choices. She simply held my hand and smiled as I became the person I had always been, in fragments, waiting to emerge. I started noticing details about myself I had overlooked before. The way my hair fell across my shoulder. The way my lips curved naturally when I smiled. The subtle rhythm in the way I walked. Every reflection in shop windows, every glance in passing cars, reinforced the alignment I felt inside. One evening, preparing for a small dinner with friends, I stood in front of the mirror. Not to hide, not to adjust, not to practice. I just looked. And for the first time in a long time I smiled at myself. "I like this version of me," I whispered softly. "I like who I am becoming." And it was true. Not a fleeting thought. Not a fragile experiment. It was me. Strong. Confident. Accepted. For the first time, transformation didn't feel like a process of losing myself. It felt like coming home. If you had told me back when this started as a silly bet, that I would end up here, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I didn't set out to change. I didn't expect to discover a part of myself that had been quietly waiting all along. What began as a dare became a journey into honesty, curiosity, and self-acceptance. The scariest moments, looking in the mirror, stepping outside, facing recognition, turned out to be the moments that set me free. Sometimes, the smallest acts of courage can lead to the biggest discoveries. Sometimes, doing something for someone else opens a door to loving yourself. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do isn't to change who you are. It's to finally see yourself, accept yourself, and step into the world as your most authentic version. Because the most powerful transformation isn't in the clothes, the makeup, or the name. It's in the courage to exist fully, without hiding, without apology, without fear. And that is worth every heartbeat of fear, every whisper of doubt, every step into the unknown.